You are Lieutenant Colonel Stanislav Petrov, halfway through a lonely, tedious night shift in the Serpukhov 15 bunker, a concrete tomb 100 feet beneath the Russian earth, and you are thinking about your father, who fought at Stalingrad and never trusted machines because he said they had no soul, when the main console emits a single, piercing shriek that cuts through the hum of the ventilators and the steady blink of standby lights, and the word "launch" flashes in crimson Cyrillic letters on the central screen. The shriek is followed by a second alert, and a third, and a fourth, and a fifth, until the room is a symphony of klaxons, and the map display shows 5 bright tracks arcing from Montana toward the Soviet heartland, and Captain Mikhailov, the junior officer across the room, stands up so fast his chair clatters to the floor, his face a mask of pure terror as he stares at you, because the protocol is clear and absolute and drilled into you 1,000 times. The protocol demands you confirm the launch and immediately report up the chain to the general staff, because the retaliation must be authorized before the first warhead detonates, and you feel the weight of the black phone in your hand. It's cold plastic against your palm, and you see the ghost of your father's face in the flickering screen, telling you a machine is just a tool for a man's mind, a stubborn echo from Stalingrad that holds you frozen for one endless second. You tell Mikhailov to silence the alarms, your voice surprisingly steady as you force your hand away from the phone and you lean over the console, your eyes tracing the missile tracks that climb with impossible, textbook perfection across the digital map, because you remember your training at the engineering academy, where they taught you about the Oko satellite system's flaws, how it could mistake the sun's reflection off high-altitude clouds for a rocket plume, and you think 5 missiles is not a decapitation strike. It is a provocation or a mistake, because if Washington wanted to end the world, they would send everything they had in a rolling thunder that would black out the sky, and Mikhailov is pleading with you now from across the room, his voice thin and cracking with a fear you must not show, saying the computers have verified it twice. The system confidence is at maximum, and the clock is ticking down toward the point of no return, while your fingers press white against the cool, laminated edge of the console. You pick up the heavy black receiver of the direct line to the general staff, its cord coiling like a serpent on the desk, and you hear the hollow ring echo in your ear as you watch the 5 perfect, impossible tracks crawl across the glowing map toward Moscow and Leningrad, and when a stern, clipped voice answers with a single word, you report a system alert, but not a confirmed launch, citing anomalous readings and the possibility of solar interference, your own voice sounding flat and distant to your ears as you commit the first irrevocable act of disobedience against the machine's cold certainty. The voice on the other end turns cold and demands a definitive status, cutting through your technical explanation with the sharp, impatient tone of a man who deals in absolutes, and you can feel the sweat tracing a path down your spine under your uniform shirt as you stare at the trajectories that seem too neat, too symmetrical, lacking the chaotic truth of an act of war, your fingers tightening around the receiver as you weigh the ghost in the machine against the ghost of your father. You remember your son Yuri, sleeping safely in his bed in Moscow, his face peaceful under a blanket covered in cartoon rockets, and that simple, domestic image becomes an anchor in the storm of sirens and protocol, because the voice on the phone is still demanding an answer, and Mikhailov is a statue of panic across the room, his hand twitching toward his own phone to make the report you are refusing to make, and you feel the words forming in your throat. The irrevocable lie that will either save the world or end your life. For a long, breathless minute, the only sound is the hum of the computers and the frantic beating of your own heart, waiting for the satellites to update and for the tracks to either vanish or solidify into certain doom, and you watch Mikhailov's trembling hand hover over his console as he looks from you to the screen, his faith in the machine warring with his duty to obey, while the map paints its 5 silent lines of digital death across the Atlantic. The update cycle completes with a soft terminal chime, and the screen refreshes, But the 5 missile tracks do not vanish. They flicker, their trajectories stuttering and jumping erratically as a new line of diagnostic text scrolls beneath them, reporting sensor degradation and impossible velocity shifts, and the system confidence indicator plummets from maximum to a flashing, uncertain yellow, which means the machine no longer knows what it is seeing, and the silence that follows is not relief, but a deeper, more profound suspense, as you and Mikhailov stare at a ghost that refuses to either fully materialize or completely disappear. The secure line rings again, a jarring mechanical sound that shatters the fragile silence, and you lift the heavy receiver to your ear to hear the general's voice, furious and clipped, demanding an explanation for your failure to follow protocol and report a confirmed nuclear launch as the system dictated. His words like ice water down your spine as you stand amidst the blinking error codes, knowing you must now construct a lie that is technically plausible enough to save your skin and deflect the blame onto the machine. You give your report in flat technical terms, your voice a monotone recitation of satellite glitch and solar interference as you stare at the error code, flickering on the central screen, and you can hear the general's disbelief crackling over the line, a silence that is heavier than any shouted reprimand. Because you know your career is over, you know you will be branded a coward or a fool or worse. But the 5 ghostly tracks are gone and the world outside is still asleep, and that is the only math that matters now. You hang up the phone and sit in the green gloom, the cold plastic of the receiver leaving an imprint on your palm, and the adrenaline leaches away to leave a profound, hollow fatigue that settles in your bones like a sickness, and you look across the room at Mikhailov, who is staring at the now blank screen with the wide, unblinking eyes of a man who has just witnessed a miracle he cannot comprehend, and the silence between you is thicker than the concrete walls. You watch Mikhailov gather his things with robotic movements, avoiding your eyes as he heads for the blast door, and you are left alone with the hum of the machines and the ghost of your decision hanging in the stale air, because the shift is not over, and you must remain at your post until your relief arrives, staring at the same screens that lied to you, waiting for the next alarm that could be real, your body rigid in the chair. You light a cigarette, the match flaring in the gloom, and you watch the smoke curl toward the ceiling vents like the ghost of your lie, because the error log is still printed and waiting on the desk beside the silent phone, a physical testament to your disobedience, and you wait for the heavy door to groan open, for the day shift to arrive, and see the evidence, and ask the questions you cannot answer, your rightness feeling as insubstantial as the smoke in the stale, recycled air. The door finally groans open, and 2 bleary-eyed officers from the day shift shuffle in, smelling of cold morning air and cheap soap, and they nod at you without speaking as they take their places at the consoles, because the night's log is already on the printer and the error code is still flashing its silent accusation. And you stand up, your joints stiff, and you walk out of the command center without a word, leaving the ghost of the alarm behind you in the green-lit tomb. You walk down the long concrete corridor toward the elevator, your footsteps echoing in the narrow passage lined with pipes and emergency sirens, and the weight of the night settles on your shoulders like a physical burden because the air here is always the same recycled chill, but now it feels charged with the secret you carry. A secret that would unravel the certainties of every man you pass, and you press the call button, staring at the steel doors that will deliver you back to a world that has no idea how close it came to ending. The elevator ascends with a low groan of cables, and you feel the deep vibration of the machinery travel up through the soles of your boots and into your bones, a steady hum that marks your passage through the layers of earth and reinforced concrete, and you lean against the cold steel wall, closing your eyes as the immense, subterranean pressure of the bunker recedes, replaced by the simpler, terrifying reality of the dawn and the ordinary life you must now pretend to rejoin. The elevator doors open onto a small, bare lobby, and you step out into the pale, pre-dawn light, filtering through high, grimy windows, and the cold autumn air hits your face like a physical shock, clean and sharp and smelling of damp earth and fallen leaves, a miracle after the stale, electronic tomb below, and you stand there for a long moment, just breathing it in, because the world is still here, quiet and ordinary and utterly unaware of the silent scream that just faded from the machines. You walk to the bus stop alone, the gravel crunching under your boots, in the deep quiet of the military compound, and you can see your breath in the cold air as you wait for the headlights that will take you back to Moscow. Because the secret is a stone in your chest now, a cold, hard truth you will carry through the metro and into your apartment, where your wife will ask if your shift was quiet, and you will say yes, it was quiet, and you will mean it. The bus arrives, a rattling metal box in the pre-dawn stillness, and you climb aboard to find it empty, save for the driver who stares ahead into the gray road, and you take a seat by a fogged window as the barbed wire perimeter of Serpukhov 15 recedes into the birch trees, because the horizon is igniting with a fragile, peach-colored light over a country still wrapped in sleep, a country that exists this morning only because you, in a moment of pure, terrifying insubordination, chose to believe in the silence between the alarms. The bus lurches through the waking suburbs, past apartment blocks where kitchen lights are flicking on one by one, and you watch a woman in a headscarf hanging laundry on a balcony, her movements slow and ordinary in the new light, because this is the world you preserved with a lie, a world of wet sheets and boiling kettles and children being woken for school, and you press your forehead against the cool glass, feeling the immense, quiet distance between the horror in the bunker and this fragile, persistent peace. The bus deposits you at the metro station, and you descend into the warm, stale breath of the underground, carried along by the tide of early workers with their blank, tired faces, and you move through the tunnels like a ghost among the living, because the vibration of the approaching train travels up the cold metal pole you grip and into the marrow of your bones, a deep, subterranean tremor that echoes the dread still humming in your nerves, and you close your eyes, anchoring yourself in this ordinary, rushing world that you chose. You emerge from the metro into your neighborhood, where the morning sun is just clearing the rooftops and glinting off the dew on the communal playground's metal slide, and you walk the last few blocks with the secret sitting like a stone in your throat, because your wife will be making breakfast and your son will be rubbing sleep from his eyes, and you must walk through your own front door and become the man they expect, the man who had a quiet night at work, not the man who held the world back from the brink. You stand outside your apartment door, your key in your hand, and you listen to the familiar sounds of your wife clattering dishes in the kitchen and your son's sleepy voice asking for his school bag, because this is the fragile, ordinary life you gambled everything to preserve, and you take a final, deep breath of the hallway's cabbage-scented air before you turn the key and step inside, leaving the ghost of the bunker on the threshold as you cross into the warm, yellow light of home. Your wife, Larissa, looks up from the stove with a smile that doesn't quite reach her eyes, and she asks if you want eggs as you hang your coat on the hook by the door, the familiar smell of strong tea and warm bread wrapping around you like a blanket. And you say yes, eggs would be good, your voice sounding normal in your own ears as you walk into the kitchen and ruffle your son Yuri's hair, because the ritual of this morning is a lifeline you cling to with every fiber of your being. You sit at the small kitchen table and watch Yuri push his eggs around his plate, his brow furrowed in concentration over some schoolbook problem, and you see the ghost of your own father's stubborn intellect in the boy's serious face, a lineage of doubt and reason that passed from Stalingrad to a bunker to this sunlit kitchen, and you understand that the secret you carry is not just a burden, but a silent, unbreakable thread connecting you to every fragile morning you have bought with your disobedience. You finish your breakfast in silence, the taste of the tea and eggs anchoring you to the solid reality of the table and the sun on the linoleum, and you know you will go to work tomorrow and the day after that. A man with a ruined career and a perfect secret, because the world turns on such secrets, and you will watch your son grow up in the fragile, borrowed daylight you preserved, a man who saved the world by choosing to doubt a machine on a lonely, green-lit night.